Well, thanks again for having us, Andrea, and thank you all for attending this seminar and session. Shein was founded in 2012 in Nanjing, China by 4 founders. It relatively quickly moved to Guangzhou, and then in 2021, the founders made the decision to relocate the entire business to Singapore. And today, we are truly a global brand. We have offices in over 20 countries. We serve customers in over 150 countries. We have 16,000 global employees, including over 700 in the European Union and nearly 1,500 in the United States. We operate out of major centers, including Ireland, Singapore, Los Angeles, Sao Paulo, Brazil. And together, this company is animated by a unique vision, a vision that was really set forward by our founders to make the beauty of fashion accessible to everyone. And I'm hoping today that we can talk a little bit about how we do that, our approach to that. But that vision, that principle really animates everything that we do, and I think it's a testament to why we're here. It's a testament to why we engage in activities like this. It's also part of why we've been successful.
Now, before we get in details, am I correct if I say that you are the champion of super fast fashion?
You know, we don't use the term fast fashion. I think that the term that we prefer is on-demand fashion. And we've got a unique model of making clothing that measures actual demand and then only produces enough clothing to meet that demand. And the effect of that is to dramatically reduce inventory waste, unsold products, and ultimately general waste.
Yeah, general waste, it's not just about overbuying, overproduction, and with ultra-low prices, many people think that you are inducing consumers to buy something that they basically don't need, and to increase volumes, and indeed, at the end of the day, also waste.
One of the features of the on-demand model, I think, is that it is capable of addressing some of these concerns. So let me explain a little bit how it works. When we work with our designers are looking for inspiration to produce clothing for the ready-to-wear retail sector. They will typically produce 100 copies of that garment as an initial run. Those items will be placed for sale on our e-commerce websites, and we will measure customer response to that initial small batch run. If there is interest in that, and we measure a number of factors from sales to customer interactions on our mobile application, only then, in response to that demand signal, will we go back to our producers and order a second run of maybe 400 or maybe 800 units. And in this way, we're constantly producing these small to intermediate batches so that we never produce more than what the market actually wants to purchase.
How do you read the signals that come from the engagement of consumers on your website? How do you interact with these consumers, and who are they? Who's your customer base?
I think that the most interesting feature of our business is that we've had tremendous resonance with Gen Z and some younger millennials. Our core customer globally is typically a female, usually 18 to 33. And I think one of the things that our model allows is, because we are only producing very small amounts of each particular SKU, we're able to offer a very wide variety of clothes and also a very wide variety of sizes. And this inclusivity allows customers from very diverse backgrounds, very diverse fashion tastes, to find items that they resonate with on our platform. And we think that is something that has resonated quite strongly with Generation Z, among other features of our business.
Peter, you're talking about small numbers, small batches, but at the end of the day, you're very famous for volumes, and the volumes that you're putting into the market based, again, on low prices. This morning, I went on the website and I found earrings for less than €2 and an evening gown for less than €15 and so on. Is it profitable? How do you make it profitable?
So a feature of the on-demand business model, and the reason why it's linked to our vision of accessibility, is that it has some economies of scale and some operational efficiency attainment that allows us to be extremely competitive on pricing. And so by removing the risk of inventory from the cost of goods sold, by ensuring that we are online only, by very carefully monitoring margins, and by using a fully digitized supplier management system that I call the digital merchant, we're able to achieve economies of scale and material pricing that are quite competitive. And I think that is a driver of why we're able to be so cost competitive. Now, in terms of our financial performance, we're a private company, and so I can't go into detail about that, but I can express a lot of confidence in the power of this on-demand approach to both empowering businesses that are able to connect with customers, but also to be financially viable.
Well, behind your aggressive growth, many think that there's also a supply chain, the way you do things and the way you manage your supply chain. So can you tell us more? Let's start with how many suppliers do you have?
So we principally work with what would traditionally be called small, medium-sized enterprises. We do have relationships with some larger producers, but the majority of our production base are these small and medium-sized companies. We've got contract manufacturers in China, we have contract manufacturers in Brazil, and contract manufacturers in Turkey. Currently, we work with right around 5,800 of them globally, and they're knit together through this digital merchant system that I was describing earlier today.
Well, how do you enforce compliance? How can you make sure that they do respect safe and health condition and sustainability requirements, for example?
I think that is actually one of the most important initiatives that we've launched. We have zero tolerance for forced labor. We have zero tolerance for child labor. We also think that it's critically important that the physical locations where our garments are made are safe, secure, and that the workers there have opportunities to either advance their career and can do so in a safe environment. We do this in a couple of ways, and I think it's important to note that this is a multimodal effort. We start with a supplier code of conduct, and all of our suppliers are required to sign on to the supplier code of conduct and undergo an initial diligence review prior to coming on to the platform. Once they're on the platform, they are subject to our audit program, and we've conducted nearly 4,000 audits in 2023, and we expect to conduct a similar number this year, if not more. And the idea is to make sure that the ecosystem is aware that we are paying attention and that we are monitoring their performance against our very carefully crafted standards and that supplier code of conduct. We also have introduced a number of features to make sure that if we detect problems, that we take immediate action. And I would refer you all to our sustainability and social impact report. It's available on our website, sheinGroup.com. And it details this effort. It goes into very specific analysis about how we've done and what we've learned from that process, and I encourage you all to check it out. But there's much more detail there than I think would be useful to go into here. But the approach is really about making commitments, setting clear goals, and then enforcing those goals through an audit regime.
Well, many think that your business model is very impactful, too impactful for the world, the planet, and the way it makes business and the way you make money. So how are you imagining the transitioning towards a more sustainable business model for Shein?
I think that when you look at our model and you look at our strategic vision, one of our key future initiatives is how do we manage our impacts? And we have adopted a program that we call the Evolution Framework. It's a threefold framework that has pillars for both people, the planet, and process. And the idea there is to give us a strategic architecture that the company can move through over time to report on its initiatives and to make sure that our vision of making fashion accessible is also in line with managing our impacts. I can go into some detail for you. I think it's important to understand a couple of our initiatives. And I think one of the most exciting initiatives that we have is actually the on-demand model itself. By calibrating supply to demand very closely and avoiding excess inventory risk, we think that there are some operational efficiencies that can contribute to the broader conversation on managing impacts. I think a couple of other initiatives that we've adopted and based on our technology heritage I'm particularly excited about. One is our partnership with a company called Queen of Raw out of New York. Queen of Raw is a software company that has developed a solution called Materia MX that maps dead stocks around the world. And because these dead stocks tend to be very, very useful in our small batch initial runs, we can source these dead stocks and purchase them directly through the Materia MX platform and then put them to use in our collections. We've done this most recently with one of our premier collections with a music singer from Brazil named Anitta. And that is, I think, something where we have allowed dead stock to be repurposed in a way that's less linear than I think traditional garment production has been, at least in our industry. I think a final area that I'd point out is some of our efforts to transform our supply chain through direct capital contributions to suppliers. We've committed $70 million to a supplier community empowerment program that is aimed at giving our contract manufacturers enough working capital to upgrade their facilities, be it through solarization, be it through the use of digital thermographic printing, be it through the use of cool denim transfer. All of these technologies are things that we're actively trying to fund through our supplier community empowerment program.
Well, if we look at some numbers and the one that you disclose on the website, for example, in terms of the impact, the emission impact in 2022, it was 9.17 million metric tons of CO2. 2023, 16.6, which is very remarkable increase. How will you work on that?
So I think that it's a testament that our business has grown, and our business has continued to grow, and it's resonating with customers around the world. I think that managing those impacts is a key priority for us, and I'm confident that our Evolution framework and the roadmap that it sets out will help lead us to reducing our impacts. And I think that we've set some very specific targets around impact management. We're targeting to lower our overall carbon emissions by 25% by 2030. So that would essentially decouple our growth from our carbon emissions. We're also looking at a number of other factors, including working with SBTi to make a net zero commitment. All of this is set out in our sustainability and social impact report, which I mentioned earlier, and I would really encourage you all to take a look at it because we go into much more detail about our roadmap, our plan, and how we plan to address this challenge.
Well, Peter, this is one of the aspects where the Italian antitrust has opened an investigation in possibly misleading information that you gave to the market in this direction. What was your reaction?
So I can't speak specifically to the Italian investigation, but what I will say is I think something that we value as a company is really participating with stakeholders. And we understand that it is appropriate for regulators in many of the countries that we do business in. It's appropriate for members of the press, for civil society groups. All of those groups have an opportunity to ask us questions, and we want to cooperate fully with those investigations, questions, and forums like this.
You were discussing new collection and the inspiration for your designers, and how do you respond to the critics that some of your designers inspire to other works of designers of other companies, including Italian brands and so on. So how do you protect copyrights and intellectual property?
We value and seek to protect creators, and anyone who has rights, anyone who has done something creative in their work, be it through clothing, be it through art, be it through jewelry, whatever, we want to protect that. And we have developed a comprehensive process for addressing these concerns. We have teams both in the United States and in China, augmented by artificial intelligence, that are actively reviewing products before they go onto the site to ensure that they don't infringe intellectual property rights. Now, work needs to be done, and I think work will continue to be done, but our commitment is to protect artists and creators and designers. I think more broadly, you can see this commitment reflected in something that we call the Shein program. And the Shein program is a design incubator where independent designers, independent artists can contribute a design or a collection, and we will manufacture, market, and handle the sales and returns and logistics for that particular product line. And we co-brand with the artist or creator. There are over 150 of these independent artists and creators working for us in Italy alone, and they launch collections throughout the year. One of them in 2024 actually won our global Shein challenge and was the global champion among several hundred Shein designers for the most innovative and promising future designer in our program. And what we do with Shein is we want to give new designers a launch pad. So instead of having to spend years and years to break into the industry, we want to use our platform to give these new independent designers a way to reach a much broader audience, to break through and to really build their career. And so it's something that we've been very happy with, and it reflects our commitment to protecting and advancing the careers of designers.
Well, you were mentioning growth. Your growth has been sensational, and the latest numbers are that the turnaround 2023 was around 45 billion with $2 billion in terms of profit. But my question is, how the business is doing? Because in first half, we too on Milan Finanza, we reported the other day that apparently your first half was profitable, but a little bit less than the first half of the year before. How things are going, what the trends you observe are?
So I can't comment again specifically on our performance. We don't publish those numbers, but what I can say is that I'm fortunate enough in my role to travel around the world and to talk to customers around the world. And I think many, many customers appreciate both the ability to self-express through the platform that we create. I think they also very much appreciate our commitment to inclusive sizing. And I think as we continue to evolve and mature as a company, and to express our values and to demonstrate our responsibility, we will see continued growth.
And in terms of the main trends that you see in consumer behavior, what are the latest observations from your platform?
I think one of the neatest parts, if you will, of the on-demand model is that it allows us to engage in almost a form of conversation with our customer through understanding what they like, what they don't like, and allows our designers to do that. It allows us as a company to do that. And we've seen a couple of things. So I think the first and most profound insight we have from our customers is that they are truly empowered. They see themselves as wanting to self-express, knowing how to self-express, and they're very happy to work with brands that promote that. And we as a company, because of the way that we offer this on-demand production capability, we've really been able to capitalize on that. And we see that that allows us not only to capture micro trends, it also allows us to serve smaller communities and smaller tastes at a wider range of sizes. So that's been something that we've seen. I think building on that is we've noticed that our customers are incredibly focused on personalization. They like to work with brands and interact with software websites that allow for a personalized experience and that reflect their individuality and their views. And I think that's something that the more we've been able to personalize our product offerings and the more we've been able to personalize our shopping experience on our mobile app in particular, the more engagement we've seen. And that's been quite striking in the data. I think the final piece is that consumers are becoming increasingly conscious. So while they have a desire for individual expression, while they certainly value personalization, I think they also are increasingly conscious. And there's one example I'll point out is we launched a Shein Rescued collection, and this collection was one of our best performing Shein collections of all time. And it, again, working with Queen of Raw, allowed us to source dead stock material to create this collection, and it was at a price point that was virtually the same as all of our other collections. So that say-do gap, if you will, was eliminated because we could offer a much more attractive rescued collection at the same price point as some of our other clothes, and that drove sales. And I think our customers really appreciated that because we connected their intention with their purchase power.
Well, Peter, we have to wrap it up a bit, and just two flashes before we let you go. And the first one is on the future of Shein. So how do you see the future, and in terms of localization of your supply chain? You know, here in the room, there are companies that are not involved in your supply chain. Will it be also in the future, or what your plans are also about, you know, your presence in Europe?
So I think broadly speaking, and quickly to sum up, I think there are a couple of strategic points that we're focused on. One is obviously becoming a less impactful brand. And so we are very keen to work with stakeholders across Europe, across the United States on technologies, solutions, and mechanisms for lowering our impact. We have a team in Europe that is focused on addressing many of these issues and is working closely with stakeholders in Brussels and in other European capitals on addressing the emerging legislative consensus in the European Union. And I think we are also looking at ways to partner with local producers and local companies. So we've launched a marketplace product in Italy. We have a team in Milan that is working closely with companies throughout Italy that would like to reach our customer base and use our platform. And obviously, as goods are produced closer to the European Union from our production center in Turkey and with our return and refulfillment centers in Poland, we're able to lower the overall carbon impact of our operations in Europe. And we look to continue to expand those efforts into 2025.
And lastly, talking about localization and Europe, where's your listing process to go public at the London Stock Exchange, if it is the case?
I can't comment on that, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
All right, Peter, it was good having you at the Venice Sustainable Fashion Forum.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you all.